Hey everybody, it's Mama to Wife of One. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video, for coming to my channel or coming back to my channel if you are not new here. If you're new here, like I said, I'm Mama to Wife One. I'm an editor, a writer, a mommy, and a wife. I'm a content creator, influencer, whatever you want to call it. That's what I claim that I am. But since you clicked on this video, you clicked because you saw my beautiful face, but you also saw the title of this video. So you know that we're here to talk about I don't know if I can even call it a finale of Married at First Sight, because they did something really strange here. So let me break it down for you. Married at First Sight, if you guys do not know, is a reality show that airs on Lifetime. And the premise of the show is these 5 women and these 5 men are picked out of a sea of hundreds, maybe thousands of people who are looking to get married. So some experts get together, they look at all these people to figure out who's ready to be married, who could possibly be matched with another person. And at the end of this picking time, they pick these 5 women to be married to these 5 men. It's called Married at First Sight because they do not meet their intended spouse until the day of the wedding. And not just the day of the wedding, but at the altar. Only information that they're given is the ring size of their intended so that they can buy a wedding ring. But they meet at the altar, they kiss, sometimes they don't kiss. They're meeting each other's families for the first time, getting to know each other. They have a honeymoon night in the hotel room. Then the next day they have brunch with their new spouses, family members and friends to kind of get to know them a little better as well. And then they go on a honeymoon to some tropical location, normally for a week. Then they come back and they're all 5 couples are living in the same apartment complex, so they can lean on each other, give each other support. And so you're learning how to live with this stranger. You're learning how to not argue with a stranger, but you're learning a lot about yourself and how you typically handle situations, how you are in relationships. You're learning about how they are in relationships. You're learning to compromise. You're learning to make adjustments, all of that stuff. And at the end of 8 weeks, you meet up with the experts again to decide if you want to continue with this marriage or if you want to get divorced. That is the synopsis of the show. We are in season 16, and for the first time, they did something that was so unnecessary and so annoying that I'm still pissed off about it. What normally happens, the finale of the show, all the couples come one by one, sit with the experts to say, yes, I want to stay married. No, I want to get a divorce. If you say yes, you get some champagne that you have with the experts. If you say no, you hug each other. We wish you good luck. Go on about your business. Then normally by the end of the episode, all 5 couples will come back together and talk about their decision, talk about how we've grown in this process. I'm so glad I met you guys and I made some new friends. Even if I didn't walk away with a husband or a wife, I still have new friends, and no one can ever understand what we've gone through. And they toast and the episode ends. And the next week we talk about where are they now. This is normally what happens. What they decided to do for season 16 is, first of all, last week you guys saw there was no video from me, because the finale didn't happen last week. We heard from 3.5 of the remaining 4 couples who said, I want to get married, I want to stay divorced. The last couple, the woman said she wants to stay married, and then it ended on a cliffhanger before the husband could give his answer. That was so unnecessary. It was so annoying that you had to sit for an hour and a half and we still don't have a full conclusion. So I refused to do a video because I didn't have all the information, right? So last night's episode started with that husband's decision and then proceeds to show the couples moving out of their respective apartments. For some of them, it's starting a new life. For some of them, it's getting back to their old life. They're talking about dating again and all this other stuff. It was very unnecessary because we got to see them like 4 days after decision day. We don't need to see that. And apparently there are 2 more episodes of this, of them getting back into the dating world and all that stuff before they actually do Where Are They Now. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you're expecting to see a video from me the next couple weeks, you will not. My videos, I go from normally the matchmaking process, actually no, not matchmaking process. I go the first episode where they actually we know the five couples and we know their names and stuff. I start from there. I end when they have made their decision. So this will be my final episode for season 16. But if you guys want to keep me updated on what you see the next couple weeks, if it's something juicy or exciting, feel free to comment. I'll definitely comment with you. I can't guarantee I'm going to watch. But if you guys see something and you're like, oh, girl, this happened, you didn't know this happened, definitely feel free to let me know. But we're going to start with the couples and their decisions. I think most of them are pretty duh, I knew that was going to happen. And I'm trying to find my predictions to see what I said. I don't know what my predictions are, but I pretty much had an idea of what was going to take place. The easiest is Nicole and Chris. They obviously both said yes. I think everybody saw that coming. That wasn't a big surprise, wasn't a shocker. They got to have their champagne. It's all good. Yay, Nicole and Chris. So that's it for them. With Eris and Jasmine, I believe that I said if Eris went first, that he would say yes. I said if Jasmine went first, I think she's going to say no. And obviously, if one person says no, the other person has to say no as well. That's just the way it works, right? So I was right. Jasmine said no. And then Eris followed up with like, yeah, no, just wasn't going to work, whatever. So I did take some notes, especially on what people were wearing. I will say for Nicole and Chris, I loved Nicole's outfit. She had this bright pink dress on, and it looked beautiful against her skin. It looked very, very pretty. Jasmine wore this like green fitted gown. It was a beautiful dark green. I actually don't even like the color green, but I thought she looked very nice. Eris's outfit, it was very much, let me see, what did I put on here? I put that she wore a flowing green sequin gown, and he wore a maroon suit with a mustard shirt. It was very ketchup and mustard, but it was okay. It wasn't too bad. It was okay. And before they came out, Dr. Pepper and Pastor Kyle were talking, and Dr. Pepper felt hopeful. Pastor Kyle was like, I'm not sure. And they both talk about what they like about each other. And it definitely seems like there's no real animosity there. It's more that he feels there wasn't much of a spark. And he keeps harping on the fact that, she wasn't vocal about how she felt about things. But his main thing is that there wasn't a spark. Her main thing is she didn't feel like he was ever all in it and didn't really try. But again, it seems like there's no animosity. He still wants to visit the dog and like hang out with the dog or whatever. And it seems, and she said in last night's episode that they have a foundation of friendship. I don't think they're necessarily going to be like friends like that, but I think that they're going to be okay. Because again, it's not like I'm mad at you, I'm pissed at you. I'm sure she's more disappointed than anything else. But it seems like they kind of ended on pretty decent terms. I love her aunt because she's moving back home temporarily, and her aunt is there, and her aunt was like, well, I don't know what's wrong with him because you're amazing. Like, what the heck couldn't you find like about you? And that reminded me of my favorite aunt in the whole wide world, who is very much always on my side, always got my back, who does not hesitate to say how she feels. So I was like, Jasmine's aunt is everybody's auntie in this moment. Like, girl, what is wrong with him? Because you're amazing and you're beautiful. I don't get it. But one thing that I don't like is that a lot of times, and I put this in the note, a lot of couples ask for or feel like they require more time, because 8 weeks, yes, 8 weeks is a short amount of time, and I do get that. However, if you know signing up for this that you only have 8 weeks, that means you need to take advantage of that time. And I think Eris, when they made that comment, you didn't take full advantage of those 8 weeks. Because he said before, he spent half of that time focused on the fact that there's no spark. So he didn't really try. He was already kind of out of it. And it took him almost 5 weeks before he actually started enjoying being married and actually putting forth some kind of effort. So it's like, you can't say you needed more time when you had the time that you need. You just didn't do nothing with it. So, but one thing I will say that from all the couples, they all walk away from this experience, whether they walk away with the experience with the husband or wife, they walk away with the knowledge that I have learned something about myself, and I know to handle situations a little bit differently. So Eris has learned, in his mind, he said he's learned to date with a purpose and to just kind of focus on dating, like having a long-term relationship that could possibly lead to marriage. Jasmine has learned that I need to speak up often and early. I can't not speak up just because I'm uncomfortable, just because I feel awkward about it. I need to speak up for myself, like I have to. But it seems like neither of them have any regrets either. Like I said, there's no animosity there, which I appreciate. Gina and Clint, thought it was very clear they're both going to say no, and I understood that, and it's whatever. My issue with Gina is the same issue I have with Shaquille. She has no accountability. In her mind, I put everything in this. It didn't work out. I was not attracted to him because of his crass humor. He's a little too much out there. I need something a little more reserved. And, it's just a lot. And sometimes just bizarre, his behavior and the way he acts, blah, 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 blah. Everything was Clint. She didn't hold herself accountable for anything at all. She didn't say, I've learned that I need to be better at this, or I learned that I need to start doing this instead of that. What she learned was, I'm ready to be a wife. I've learned that I'm definitely ready to be married. And so I'm ready to get out there, because it's not like I'm nursing, heartbreak or something. So I don't necessarily have to heal from anything. So I'm ready to get back out there. That bothered me so much. Gina, You learned nothing. And I'm hoping that she went back at some point and watched these episodes and she kind of got a better glimpse of, oh, I see what I did there. I could have done more of that. Or I kind of see what Clint was saying there. So yeah, that is something I need to work on. I'm really hoping that she went back and she is seeing something else, maybe having some fresh revelation. Because in the moment, she is not seeing where she could have done better. And that's very dangerous because most marriages, even if a person has cheated, when a relationship breaks down, it's not even just a marriage, when a relationship breaks down or ends, two people are in the relationship. So two people have done something. Even if one person cheated, the other person isn't completely blameless. Even if they didn't cheat, there was something that they still should have done or contributed or whatever. So for Gina, I really hope that you hold yourself accountable, girl. And I will say this, even though there is no heartbreak there because it was amicable, just like with Jasmine and Eris, how should I put this? Being married, even if it's only for 8 weeks, and technically their marriage is going to last longer than that because of how long it takes to get divorced these days, because no one gets an annulment or whatever. But being married is not just, if it ends, is not just like, oh, my heart wasn't in it, so I'm not heartbroken, so it's okay. When that ends, most people are still mourning, not necessarily for her, not necessarily the marriage to Clint, but the idea of what you believe this marriage was supposed to be. And not everybody is keen on the idea of being married multiple times and having a divorce on their record. So it's still a matter, again, of mourning the loss of this relationship, because you all got into this assuming that this was going to be your forever love and I'm going to be married for the rest of my life. That was the assumption that you all had. So knowing that that isn't going to take place now and you're going to be divorced, yes, I'm free and I'm ready to do whatever. Yes, of course you are on paper, but emotionally, you may not necessarily graduate, especially if you haven't taken the time to figure out what you need to learn from that relationship. Because marriage or not, with every relationship, once it ends, there is something for you to learn, either about what you want, what you don't want, what you need to improve upon, what you need to do more of. There is some kind of lesson there. So I really hope for Gina's sake, she actually takes heed and figures out what that lesson is. I feel like Clint has got that together. I have all the confidence in the world with him. And there's something that Gina said last week that I was like, girl, she said there hasn't been enough time to process what she wants. She said this before she made her decision. Like, I just feel like we've just always been around each other and we haven't really had a chance to process the relationship, process this. You slept alone this entire marriage. So all those nights you slept by yourself, that wasn't enough time to process what you want. Now get out of here. I don't want to hear that. And let's see, what else did I put? So Clint admitted he's an outdoors person. So he's the guy who goes sailing and just does a lot of outdoor things. And he admitted to not being active like he normally is when he was married to her. And I think that's because he spent so much time walking on eggshells with her and just making sure he took things slowly to not like scare her and just kind of going with her pace. And I think for a lot of the couples, they kind of forget themselves a little bit, which I can see kind of happening, but it's like getting married doesn't mean that you have to turn into a completely different person. It doesn't mean you have to let go of the things that you loved, the things that you're passionate about. That doesn't mean any of that. It does mean, however, that you are bringing someone into that space now, so you have to make adjustments, and maybe you can't do certain things as often as you did it, but that doesn't mean you have to abandon it altogether. And I've seen in past seasons a couple of people who are like, man, being married to you, I used to do this all the time, and now I haven't done it in 8 weeks. It's like, well, she didn't tell you not to do that. You chose not to do that. Whether you thought she wouldn't understand, whether you thought you weren't supposed to be doing that, you can't blame that on her. And so you have to, it's two people coming together, right? But you have your own stuff. Just like your partner has their own stuff, their own hobbies, their own likes, dislikes, or whatever. And you guys are coming together, and coming together doesn't necessarily mean that all of your likes automatically become their likes. Or you both have to abandon what you like and figure out together your new likes. That's not what that means. It means you're making adjustments, but you don't have to get rid of the biggest part of who you are. And for Clint, that is being an outdoorsy person. And for whatever reason, he just didn't feel like he could do that with her, or he just felt like he can't make time for that because he's so busy catering to her. I don't know what it was. And it also made me mad that he said he doesn't feel, well, made me mad, but I liked how she phrased this. He said he doesn't feel like he is the husband that either of them deserve for him to be. So I like that, because he didn't put it all on, I'm not the husband you deserve. He was like, I'm not the husband that I think I want to be either just yet. So I like that he said that. But the whole time that he's talking about, like, you know, I should have done this, I should have done that, her reaction was, you know, I agree. You agree? That's all you got to say? Not like, oh, well, you're right, Clint, and also I could have done this and I should have done that. She never once said anything remotely close to that. No accountability whatsoever. In her mind, this didn't work because I was unattracted to him because his humor is really crass. And he's this, whatever. Nothing to do with her. I have no respect for that. Don't appreciate that at all. I did have a question. This is not specifically related to them, but I did have a question. There's a scene where Clint is moving back into his house, his apartment, and it's also important to remember that Clint and Gina live in the same building. They had never run into each other at all, but they live in the same building. But now that were married, they're going to run into each other a lot more because that's just the way it works. I do think that's kind of funny that they'll still see each other. But again, it was amicable, so it should be okay. But there's a scene where Clint is moving his things back in, putting stuff away, and he comes across his wedding pictures and he puts them in the closet. And so I was curious, how long should you hold on to wedding photos after a stint on Married at First Sight? I feel like it's a different story if you're getting divorced and married the traditional way and you get a divorce. Like, I don't know if actually, maybe it's the same question. I don't know if you're supposed to hold on to those pictures because I guess they can bring up bad memories. But then it's like, oh, but I look so good in this wedding dress. So that's a question for you guys to answer in the comments. How long should they hold on to these wedding photos, or should they hold on to their wedding photos? Comment below. That's really all that happened with them. I don't really care at all about Gina, but let's get to Kirsten and Shaq. So the cliffhanger last week, Kirsten said yes. She was like, I feel like there's definitely something here. I feel like we need more time to really see where this can go. We need time with just each other, basically away from the cameras, away from this experiment, and away from this 8-week stint. And we need to just focus on the marriage and getting better. So it ended on the cliffhanger before he could respond. So we find out the beginning of last night's episode that Shaquille says no. I felt alone in this marriage, and I feel like you have all these walls up and I can't knock these walls down. And then he started crying. I'll say this. Every person is entitled to feel the way they feel. I'm not taking that away from anybody. But just like Gina, Shaquille does not hold himself accountable. In his mind, I have done everything. I have done this. I have done that. You have made me feel alone. You have not supported me. You have not been there. You. He didn't say once what I should have done as a husband. As a husband, I should have done this, and I do apologize for that. As a husband, I didn't do enough of this, and I'm sorry. He never once mentioned anything that he could have or should have done better, because in his mind, it's all about me. You didn't support me. You didn't support me with my job. You didn't. And so I understand completely that Kirsten was pissed, because if you notice, and I'm sure y'all notice, it was very, very apparent and very glaring. When they go back to the apartment to pack everything up, everybody else are in the apartments together, right? Like you have Jasmine and Eris, you have Gina and Clint. They're talking, having a casual conversation as they pack things away. And then there's this dramatic thing of let's take the key ring off and let's put the key on the counter. Oh, we don't need these anymore. And then we all take our wedding rings off and we put them beside the key and we walk away. And it's all dramatic and like, oh, it's over. But you know what? We had a good time. Goodbye, apartment. This was nice. You get to Shaquille and you see Shaquille packing up by himself because Kirsten is pissed, as she should be. I agree with her. I completely agree that she should be pissed. So she packs her stuff up before he gets there. And then you see a clip of her leaving the apartment and putting up 2 middle fingers on her way out. I was like, I'm not mad at this girl for being upset. I'm really not. Because I feel, and it's really interesting how my feelings for these people change from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. In the beginning of the season, I was not on Kirsten's side. I thought she was immature in a lot of ways. And I was kind of on Shaquille's side. But then it definitely slowly started to flip where I was like, Shaquille is whiny. He is constantly finding problems where they're not problems. And he's definitely, again, not holding himself accountable and putting everything on her. Like she's a complete bad guy and he's done everything right. So I completely understood why she was upset. And there's a scene where she's talking with Nicole, and Nicole is, a great person, but Nicole is very assertive and aggressive. And I think because of that, the producers of the show lean on her to bring up some of the tough conversations and ask the tough questions that nobody else wants to ask. And not always just tough, sometimes questions that don't need to be asked. So she's basically talking to Kirsten about if Kirsten would reach out to Shaq, right? And Kirsten's like, he's the one that said no. So I feel like he's the one that needs to reach out to make sure I'm okay. What am I calling you for to see if you're okay? Obviously, you're good because you're the one that decided to divorce me. I understand what Kirsten's saying, and I technically agree with her. I also don't really understand where Nicole is coming from, because what do we need to talk about? What kind of conversation we need to have? Because Nicole's like, well, you need closure. No, he was clear about why he wants to divorce me. He's entitled to his opinion. I don't have to agree with his opinion, but he was very clear on why he wants to end this marriage. So that's it. He wants to end the marriage. The marriage is over. Okay, let's figure it out. And then you cut to Shaq while he's packing his stuff up and talking to his brother. And he's like, well, I'm not going to completely close the door because anything could happen. Maybe she and I just need to be apart for a little bit. And then we can come back together after some self-evaluation. And I know the self-evaluation for him is really like, maybe Kirsten will get her stuff together. And when we get back together, she'll be in a better place to like be a wife. No. And I love the fact that when all 10 of them got together at the axe throwing event, Kirsten was still giving him the cold shoulder because he's hugging everybody. She gave him a little fake side hug, would not give him eye contact. And they're all going around talking about the decision that they made on decision day. And Shaq went first, and Kirsten wasn't able to look at him. She was like, I don't hate you. She's addressing him but not looking at him. And I know that feeling. When I don't like somebody, the ultimate disrespect for me is not looking you in the eye. So if I do not care for you at all, I'm not giving you any kind of eye contact. I will talk everywhere else, still talking to you, but I will not look you in the eye. It's petty and I don't care. She's basically like, I don't hate you, but the door is closed. Like, once we're done with any of my relationships, if we're done, we're done. So I won't be calling you to check on you. I won't be calling you to hang out. Like, it's just done. Like, that's it. And it'll take me time to process everything. I'm not as mad as I was before, but it's still going to take me some time to process everything that's taken place. And it's like, you know what? That's fair. And it's funny because even after she said that, he was like, well, you never know. I don't think the door is completely closed. She clearly just told you the door is closed. Leave that girl alone. Y'all ain't got nothing else to talk about. You decided you didn't want this. And, for whatever reason, you need to go about your business. And I said this before, and I will say it again. Shaquille, I don't think is a bad person, but I do think he doesn't hold himself accountable, which is already a red flag. But also, he has a lot going on. So while it may be true that he wants a wife, it can also be true that he was not ready to have a wife. He was not in a position to make adjustments in his schedule to include a wife. What he wanted was, I have this job, I'm in school, I have my family responsibilities, I have my mentorship, I have this. I just have a hole in the middle where a wife should be. So let me insert Kirsten, boom, and now she can be the one to support me in all of these things that I do. Never mind the fact that puzzle piece that is Kirsten comes with other puzzle pieces of stuff that she has going on. Her real estate business, her family, her all of her other stuff. And he didn't once consider that whoever's going to fit this wife-size hole is going to have multiple pieces with them. So he can't just fit that one piece there because she has all these other pieces connected to her. And that didn't dawn on him and cross his mind at all. And it didn't dawn on him that, hey, I can't just put her in this piece. I have to restart the whole puzzle, start with my wife, and then I can add the other pieces later, because right now the wife has to be the focus. And not even just right now. Your family is always supposed to be your focus. Your wife, the family making your wife, is supposed to be your focus. And then everything else, not that it has to be gotten rid of or anything like that, but you have to make adjustments. It can't have the full focus of your time anymore. And if you're not in a position where you can't take focus away from those things, then you're not in a position to be a husband just yet. Maybe wait until you're out of school. I know school is very demanding for a lot of people, especially when you have a full-time job and everything else on top of it. I get that. So then wait till some stuff finishes, and then you can have a wife. I don't think he was ready for that. I think Aries had good intentions, but I said from the beginning as well, you cannot jump from never having a full-time relationship to now having a wife. Baby steps. Join a dating show if you want to go this route again. Date somebody for a good little while and then decide, okay, now I'm going to be a husband. You don't just go right into being a husband. That's not the way it works. For Gina and Clint, there should have been way more conversations. Clint should have been a little more aggressive, but I think he also should have been vocal about calling Gina out when she wasn't doing what he thought a wife should be doing. Because she was quick to say towards the end that I never felt like a wife. He didn't treat me like a wife. You wait until the end to say this, though, when it's too late for him to do anything about it. He should have called her on all the ways that she wasn't necessarily being a wife, not to like make her feel bad, but to let it be known, hey, I understand you're not really attracted to me, and this is like different territory for you, but it's different territory for me as well. But at the end of the day, you're my wife and I'm your husband. And as a husband, these are things I need from you that I'm not getting. Neither one of them had that conversation with each other. So I will say they both should have had the conversation. Then they had the audacity to bring back McKinley and Dominique. I don't care about neither one of these people. I don't. They decided to get a divorce before they even moved in with each other. Dominique is still immature. Don't care nothing about her. McKinley, at least he's finding a home, because I've been calling him homeless this whole time. So you're looking for a home. Okay, that's all well and good. But their personalities, even before all of that, was super dry and super boring. I never cared that much about them. I don't need to see them again. And now they're trying to put McKinley with Gina to go on a date. And I think Dominique's going to go on a date with Gil from a previous season. Like, why are we recycling old Married at First Sight people? Like, why are we? I don't get that. And even the conversation of McKinley and Gina possibly going on a date and them having that conversation while Clint is still there. It's like, and Nicole is leading it. And I know the producer put it up to it, but like, why? She's like, well, maybe you guys can just start off with coffee, because I would love to see where this leads. Clint is right there. And whether he and Gina had romantic vibes or not is beside the point. Legally, that is still his wife. McKinley's supposed to be his quote-unquote friend. What are y'all doing? That just seems so incredibly messy. Like, if that happens, let that happen after the divorce is finalized. They can still be friends and still hang out or whatever, and let that naturally go into something. Don't try to hook them up together while they're still married, while days later after the decision, they like... It was just weird. I thought it was very weird, very crass to do. Didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Regardless, that is the end of season 16 of Married at First Sight. For me, they got 2 more episodes, but for me, this is the end of season 16, Married at First Sight. I will say that I still enjoy the show. I think, and I've said this a couple times before, they need to permanently add Dr. Pia and Devon Franklin, because they both give really good advice. I will give them that. They give great advice, and I think they're good additions to the show, but they need to become permanent experts and need to be there from the very beginning of the matchmaking. Don't put all of that on just Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. I love Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal greatly, but I think that responsibility should not just be on 2 people. Bring Devon Franklin and Dr. P in from the very beginning. Every episode, one of those experts needs to be there talking to either all the couples or even one couple at a time, even just one. I don't even got to be there. You can call them up. If you see after the honeymoon or during the honeymoon that there's some stuff going on that could be nipped in the bud early, have one of the experts call that husband or call that couple to say, hey, we're looking at footage and I see that you're doing this and you're doing that. I want you to know that, hey, don't forget you're married and you don't need to do that. Or don't forget to talk to her about this, or don't forget to ask him this, or whatever. Give them guidance all the way through. Don't wait until, okay, it's time to meet with everybody. No, you can meet with them one-on-one still. Give them that guidance right away, because they did that with Gina and Clint, but they waited until like maybe 5 days before decision day to swoop in and be like, okay, so you're the couple we're worried about the most. You've been worried about them the whole time. Where have you been this whole time? Don't wait until it's a group setting. Like, talk to these people on a regular basis. So I will say that I'm fine with them staying at 1.5 hours. I think that's a perfectly fine idea. I'm not cool with them adding all these extra episodes after decision day. I don't quite get that at all, but it's also not my place because I don't run anything. That's just my personal opinion. But thank you guys so much for staying with me for season 16, even staying through this video. I hope you guys were entertained by it. If there are other shows that you think I should have reviewed, let me know, because I don't watch a lot of reality shows. Everything else I watch, which is morbid, everything else I watch are like missing, dead or alive, and documentaries on serial killers. It's not very happy things, but the things I do find fascinating. I love a good documentary. But there are other shows that you like that you want to hear my opinion on. Please put it down below. I love looking at TV. I'm looking for new shows to watch. So comment below. Comment below if you're surprised by any of the decisions that people made for decision day. Comment below if you think they should add more experts, or if Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal should keep doing what they're doing. Comment below just in general to comment about anything that you saw last night or last week. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.